Hello everyone. We had a great long stream earlier, and now hopefully we will do just a little bit more before bedtime. I'm not too tired from earlier, but obviously it was quite an epic stream, so let's be getting on with it and see how we're doing. Sorry about that, my camera went to sleep. It didn't tell me it had gone to sleep. So let's uncover where we were at. And the answer is, well, we got to the bottom of the triangle here. Next up is, well, we have a kind of bit of a choice, as we often do. So we either work down this bit of cloth stitch, or we work across this bit of cloth stitch. Either way, we need to do both. So as these bobbins are a bit more out the way, let's have a look. Those look like they're going to be, what are you caught on? There we go. These are the ones in question. These are the bobbins to be. And we'll take you out of your stick. You're the bobbins which we will use in a minute. Stickety, stickety, stick. Pins. I'm expecting the dogs to go nuts in a minute because that's what dogs do best. Another stick. So, this is where we were at, and 1, 2, 3, 4. I need you as well. I might need more than you, actually. So, these are all... Apparently I need this stick as well. Here we go. Because I need you two. Right. Now, that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You are the next ones. So can you, like, shove around a bit more? You can shove around a bit more out the way. So here are our working 6. Those are... Now, let's look. You are... No, you are... You go to that pair there, come out, so you are definitely not involved in this. You are safe to store over there. You come out of this bin and join them later in life. So... to this corner, and there are no bobbins to lose just yet. Should get a spirit level, but I've got one. Who am I kidding? Let me just do this. I need to go into that, find that, click on that. I am so clever. Right. Pins. Actually, before we get too involved, let's sort out some previous pins, because we really don't need all of these pins that are hiding back here. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way with my fingernails. And wreck them, because that's what happens when you do these things. I'm going to pick out the pins. I could just bent that on. Feels like it. Yep, bent as a £9 note. Don't need that. I will turn, I think, for a better view, and use pin pusher because some of the new pins should go down, and some of the old pins can come out. You are not a pin of outness. You can stay up. Right. Looking back at you, you need to come out. They make pin lifters in different formats, and this is a pin pusher, but if you do it right, the pin pusher also makes quite a good lifter, just because it's got a rounded denty bit on the bottom which can go under your bent as well. They almost are one use, some of these pins. And what I'm trying to do is down a little bit. I need to leave one row of the old and one row of the new as the down pins, because I need the strength and they will stay there till the very, very end, whereas these extra pins that I left in, which was a good idea and I will be doing it again, but they are no longer needed because we now have rows of new pins. So in the essence of clarity and seeing things for how they truly really are, I can pull out these pins. And the join of these rose grounds has not come out quite as I would like. I mean, there's nothing technically grossly wrong with them. They're just not quite how I hoped. And I think that's the only thing I can really truly say is not quite what I was expecting. They're not wrong. I haven't stuffed up. It's just not quite what I wanted. But that's how it's going to be, so they will all now be like this. So that's the way that is. Escaping pins. They are really difficult to pick up though. careful that I don't trap the lace and pull it too much with the pin pusher, because that will make it go wonky, and we don't need it to go wonky. It's quite capable of that in its own right. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine about audiobooks. I quite enjoy a good audiobook. I'm dyslexic, and so reading a book can be painfully slow for me. But obviously a good reader is a thing to behold, but also it can help people like me enjoy a book a bit more when you're not struggling to, get to the bottom of what they're trying to say. You can actually enjoy the book because someone else is reading all the words, and it's a bit like being read to as a bedtime story as a kid. You get to enjoy the book, and you can, lie there and close your eyes and, listen to the story unfold. And so I do that quite a bit. I really do like a good audiobook. And one of my favourite readers is Stephen Fry. And they were saying that, they have other memories of Stephen Fry, and that this kind of taints the potential enjoyment of an audiobook. And it's like, I can understand that. If you knew them, if you recognise the voice and it reminds you of other things, then I can definitely understand that could detract from the potential of enjoying the book, because you're too busy thinking of the time they did something stupid or whatever, even if it's a sounds alike, because, that can be a thing. You get it a lot in adverts now where they hire actors because their voice sounds like someone incredibly famous. So they hire them because they're cheaper, but because they also sound like, I don't know, David Tennant or whoever. And quite often, it's not them. It is this cheaper person who sounds remarkably like. Sean Bean is another one. He's got quite a distinctive voice, but it's also apparently really well mimicked. And so lots of people can sound like him. And so they get voice acting jobs for adverts just because they sound like somebody else. And I'm sure they're not complaining because, they get the job and the money. So, it all works out in the wash. But it is a little misleading on the poor viewer who thinks they're listening to, say, Sean Bean advertise this. And, well, it's not. Now, sometimes it is. And, fair cop, if you can't tell them apart, does it really matter? The purpose of the advert is to be remembered, after all. Right. So, that, my friends, is the old triangle cleared up. And liberated of the additional pins I put down to help keep it safe at the beginning, which definitely was a good plan. It worked very well. We now have our new row of pins at the back. We now need to do the ones this side, because they are getting out of hand and caught on everything, which is the whole reason I started doing these pushing pins down, because all the threads are making an effort to tangle. So, down the side we come. Let's turn you round because I'm definitely getting a few more than I need to. You two for starters. Let's get you out of there. And you out of there. I missed you. And you. And you. There we go. So. Now we can liberate some more pins from the ground triangle, which is when it all starts looking better. And when all mistakes become apparent, as we well know. For the pins hide many a thing. It's not that I was running out of pins, I've got another frigging pot, yeah. So it's not that I can't do without the pins, I just like to be able to see what I've done. It feels complete when it's free. And you can look at it and go, that looks good. So we can liberate all of that, and them, and a few of you. See, doesn't that look so much better? Far better. Cover you up again to keep you safe. Time to do a bit more. What did I call the stream this time? I may need to change the title somewhat. Downside. There we go. Let's update that slightly. Just because it is more accurate. You are out the way. You are out the way. Ooh, spare pin. Get you out of that. You two are done. Now we need to start bidding. I do apologise if you hear snoring. That would be Rory. Let's tilt you just a little bit that way. There we go. That doesn't feel right. You go over. You go over. Went over that. And under that. No, that's right. It is right. Suddenly my brain heard Wigfield and Saturday night. Why brain? Why did you conjure that? That is a memory that we all know should be forgotten. Let's trap some of these with a pin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can then go round the corner. There we go. Like that. There. Then we need some of you. So you're next. No, I think you may have played swapsies. Let's take you off. You are next, but I don't think you are. I think it's you two. You can get back there. Adds in a couple of minutes. Usually when someone comes along, of course they get a face with wax. Click on some things. So we're doing pretty well down this triangle, to be honest. Kind of exceeding my own expectations, which is a good thing. Tomorrow, with any luck, camera will arrive and it will look even better. Yes. Adds in about 18 seconds, but tomorrow we should be getting a 4K camera, so depending on when it arrives, because this is only 720, which I can talk a bit about after the ads. worry about doing more of you for a second. So let's package you back up. Keep you out the way. Like that. Won't be needing you for a while. So we will grab a stick. 1, 2, 3, 5. Chuck you on that pile. Try not to tangle too much into the pins, if you don't mind. Oops, that was a bad plan. There we go. Let's do it with. The only problem with using this, I know what I need. I need a man. No, I need this. Yeah, I can poke this through and I can lift all of these threads up without hooking everything. Because that is not good. I don't want to pull the pins out. Just need to unhook a lot of the mixy that goes on. Another pin trying to come out. To come out of there. There, that's a bit tidier. It's not perfect, but it is sufficiently tidy. Put you back down. I don't need you, so I will let you live free. But I will need you. So what I actually will do is I'll take you out and add you in, because I don't really want free flows under there. I've only got one, so put you on the pile, like so, and then we need you. You are the current working, and you've all mangled yourself here. Well done, guys. There you go. You are the next pile of bobbins that I want. But there we go. Time for some coke. I live such an exciting life to have, to be doing this on a Saturday evening, am I not? So these are my workers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you are joining in at the end, that would be correct. You, so we didn't twist you. Pin in the corner. So, pin. And that's you spoken for, that's you done. Don't need you again. We will release the others. Oh. off the jumper. 1, 2, 3, 4. Too jaunty an angle. Jaunty angle it is. One, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. What? You're not one of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 in my hand. Gone. You're in. You've got a twist. You're fine. Stop being something you're not. And yes, in true child form, I did just lick that and wipe it off. I have no idea what it was. Didn't taste anything, so whatever it was probably won't kill me. For 5. Let's stack you up. Of course, that's why they end up out of order, is because they bunch up a bit, but that's also okay. We can cope with that. What's she doing again? Twisted. Hello, thank you for the raid. Wow. Hello everybody. Feel free to ask as many stupidest questions as you like. I'm just quietly sitting away, which is unusual for me, quietly doing some work, so but if you have some questions, I am happy to hear from them, and I do appreciate the raid. Thank you greatly. So, what have you all... Where have you come from? What were you watching before you found yourself here? Who woke you up? Yeah, who woke you up? You were all asleep. You probably dreamt it. Don't sing, Amy. Hum. But for all the newer viewers, I do apologise that the picture is not as great as it could be. Turns out you can have really expensive cameras and they only do 720p when they're webcams. Did you know that even the newest GoPro, for which does, you know, many megapixels, and even videos in many megapixels, the moment you make it a webcam, it's 720p. That's a bit of a waste and disappointment. So this is where I'm currently at. I'm currently stuck at 720p. But tomorrow, Amazon Man will bringeth a 4K camera. And I will be able to sharpen up the image, which will be a good and glorious thing. So it can only get better. 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm thinking that's right. Yes, it is. Momentary brain farts. I have lots of brain farts. Mainly because I keep getting it wrong, even though I'm trying so hard. Crust. Come on, dog. You stood on my ingrown toenail. Thank you, dog. Now it's fit. Of it. Now we need you. Release you. And unhook you from the pin that you have. How did you twist it around it that much? Seriously. It takes an art form to twist around quite that badly. There we go. Stretch you all down. Now you do not appear to be entirely in order. Yeah. You are. So. That was not me farting, that was the dog in the background. Should it be me? Of course I would actually say so. That was definitely not. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's ping you out the way because I need the space. Have a look at what's going on with these over here, because you seem to be in a real higgledy-piggledy mess. So you are those two. You don't look like you're in the right. I reckon you should be there, like that. Let's have a good look. Yes, that looks about right. Wrong side of a pin. So let's take you out. for safety. Tidiness. Now, you are... 1, 2, 3. Did this before, and this was a success, so we shall shove you around and quickly do one row of you. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm doing really well. What you can't see is under here, just about, if I move my arm back, there's actually a whole completed triangle. This is, down here is, this little section is all completed down to the bottom. So I have this open section of triangle to go. Record time. I'm frankly chuffed with myself, although I will also say today I've made lots of mistakes and shamed myself terribly. For I went and fixed a mistake only to make the exact same mistake on the next row, and so I went back and I fixed it to make the exact same mistake on the next row. I was making a bit of a habit of it, and so frankly not my best. But tomorrow I should be getting a new camera, and it should be like 5 times as good as this one. Because it turns out, and I've said this a couple of times today, I've got a GoPro Hero 8 Black. It's a great camera. It does 4K at like 60 frames a second. Unless you use it as a webcam, in which case it's only 720. I've got a really expensive digital camera. It's brilliant and everything. Unless you use it as a webcam, it's only 720p. So tomorrow bringeth a 4K camera. So I shall need to obviously fiddle with it a little bit to have it set up the way I want. But it should be so much more clearer once new camera comes. And hopefully people will enjoy that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that will help the stream a little bit. Just because well, it can. I'm not pretending there aren't mistakes, because I'm pretty sure there are. But I am trying hard not to make mistakes. I'm potentially failing quite well, but I'm trying. I am human. I'm allowed to. I do error from time to time. So I don't need you for a bit. And we won't need you for a bit, so we shall bin you off too. Been really lucky. I've had a few people raid me, and it's been really nice. I've had some nice new friends to talk to, who come along and cheer me on, which is nice. So it's not going too bad. I'm feeling pretty okay about it all. Still slightly daunted because, let me show you this. We have completed that many triangles out of... So all the dark grey ones are ones we need to do. Yeah, it's a little daunting, and so I will need my friends to spur me along the way, because frankly, there will be times where I'll be a little bit... I don't want to do this no more. But, you know, hopefully not too much. So I'm going to need you. I'll be needing you for a minute though. And I'm going to be needing you. That's alright, typos happen to us all. Especially when other people can see what you wrote. Your finest typing is when you put a small note in Notepad to remind yourself of something later. Then you never typo when you're doing that. No. The more important it is, the more you stuff it up, frankly. So panic not. We understand that typos are in the world. So yes, I am doing quite well. It's the same with everything. I can promise you now, there are 2 situations where your typing skills go to pot. No matter what your typing skills are, let's say you're 90% accurate. Typical ads. Wait for the ads to go. Pin on finger, pin on finger. So as I was saying before the advert so rudely interrupted, was that there are two situations for which whatever typing skills you have, so let's say you're roughly 90% accurate, will turn to you might as well try and do it blindfold with your toe. One is when there is a delay between what you type and what comes up on screen. So this is most seen when remoting into a server, but the moment there is even the slightest delay, a bit like playing an organ, if you're playing a piano and you play the wrong note, you notice it because it's immediate. There's like a 5 to 30 second delay depending on the organ that you're playing. Well, so you've continued on regardless, completely not noticing your hands drifted out of space, and it turns to pot. And the same is true with your typing. Your typing turns to utter disaster when there is a delay. The other one, when someone's watching. The moment someone looks over your shoulder, it's like they rearranged the letters on the keyboard. They've now all moved. Doesn't make any sense. You completely stuff up everything you type. And it you know, I'm sorry, but it's true, you know. It's just the way it works. The moment you are watched, it is kind of Schrodinger's cat, I guess, is that the moment you are observed, the conditions change, you know. Yeah, video making is not my best skill, I think, is the short answer. I am not, much as I wanted to be a teacher, and I can teach, I've taught music, for example, I struggle, I think, with this because it's not like there are people physically here. There is a delay. Again, there's the delay between anything you ask and me seeing it, and it kind of, with all due respect, it's kind of like you're not real, right? And after all, some people will be bots, because that's a thing. And so sometimes I'm sitting here talking to myself and trying to be all excitable and you know, positive, and because I am feeling pretty damn positive, for me, and you know, all the rest of it, but it makes it hard to be entirely, you know, enthusiastic, because there's no feedback, there's no real kind of, you can't see someone else going, I get it, or, you know, you can't, you know, their excitement in their face, because, well, they don't have faces. And it's a good and a bad thing. I mean, if I knew 1 million people were watching, I'd probably die of shame. So, you know, the fact that that's not happening is most definitely a good thing. But at the same time, it's kind of weird when there could be none of you, there could be 100 of you, there could be, you know, unlikely it's the crafting section, but, you know, principles. And it is difficult, I think, to gauge kind of how it all should be and what, because obviously, for example, I'd make a terrible radio DJ, because obviously they're not allowed to leave dead air. They've got to kind of be entertaining, and they will never ever have contact with their audience, except for maybe the odd phone in. They do not get to see or hear or get any form of feedback, usually kind of as it goes along. So definitely don't think I'd be good at that. And I'm running out of Coke, which is bad, because that's not a plan. So you two are a thing, and you two are a thing. You're my next 4, so let's put you over here, out of the way. Take the stick. Need to order more of these sticks. I like these sticks. Getting rather attached to these sticks. Pin up some bobbins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some stick here. Stickety, 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 stick. Don't you dare be escaping. It's just not allowed. These knitting needle ones are a real bitch to put together, because unlike the stick ones, but that unfortunately don't really have any strength to them, these have strength, but I can demonstrate the problem really clearly. Let me get my brown cloth of clarity, because it just makes it a little easier on you lot. So this is, let me put it together, this is the bobbin holder, and it's not overly clear, but there is this piece of rather strong spring, and it doesn't have a lot of give, so it's very good in holding the bobbin still. If you compare it to the stick variety that has these elastics, well, these stretch a really long way, and while they're elastic, they don't have a lot of strength to them, so the bobbins can escape and mingle, and when the dog disaster happened, they did exactly that. One of the good advantages of these, however, and if I zoom in, hang on, zoomage, you can see that these, it's not overly clear. Let's see if I can focus on that a little bit more. These are tapered, and so when they're flat, you can just about slide the elastic underneath, and it will strap in. These, well, this is their default angle. What does this say to you? This is the head that needs to twist 90 degrees to go on the end, but also the holes there. So This needle, that while it is tapered, you cannot fit the plastic cap on it while it is flat on the surface. This results in frustration and annoyance because obviously it makes it harder to pin the magic bobbins together because, well, they're just kind of being annoying. So that's them. But they are, as a whole, much safer in these bobbins. It's just more awkward to get them together because you have to try and lift them up to do it. So, which is not always the easy plan. And you had too many twists, so that's fine. Do that. Yep. You need a stick for the moment, not for long, but you need a stick. You get a stick. You need to not try and cross over. You get to go up like that, out the way. You're out the way. And you. So, you need to come round. You need to stop being on half those pins. There you go. You need to man up a little bit. There you go. There. Cross, cross. Stitchy stitch. Just throw a pin on the floor. They weigh so little and they keep sticking to my skin. Well, under my nails and all of those kind of things. So it's distinctly complications. Right. You are done with. You can join that reject pile. You can lie down for that. I am going to get myself some more to drink before I lose my marbles. Bear with me one moment. back again. This time with a nice big fresh pint of Coke. So I should be good for a little bit. Now, let's see, we don't need you for a minute. And we need to go backwards. We will need you in a minute, but not just yet. But we shall release thee. Push you round just a little bit more. So we can push you round just a little bit more. Then we will need some of you. So we will need 1, 2, 3, 4 of you and 4 of you, and not you two. This is where piles come to mind. Not the biological piles, obviously. Much more of the making of. I am a girl of piles. I live in a world where piles of things are a thing. So let's cover up some of that. Try and keep some of the lace visible so that you've got something to look at. And we can try and mask off some of the bobbins we don't need yet to distract us from the fact that there are like 100 bobbins in this thing. So I have twist you, whole stitch out of you. Now, you actually, having done that, look a little bit like you came from the wrong place. I don't think you did. Actually, you might have, because I'm not convinced that you are all from where I thought you are. No, you're not. It's you it is you two. That's better. See, it was just... See, my brain knew something wasn't right. Just wasn't quite sure what. That's a bit better. Stop tangling with the pens. Wretched things. Right. So, time for stitches. It actually fills me with quite a lot of joy for those of you who come to share my making of my net curtain, because to be honest, and I've said this a couple of times on stream already, not this stream per se but in general, is that, for example, if I was to say to you, hey, let's go and have a round of golf, even if golf is not your sport, when you are partaking in it, it is actually not unenjoyable. You know, it's really quite reasonable. You should be twisted. If you are watching someone you know live playing golf, you're there, you're supporting them, you have some emotional vested interest, it is not so bad. If you watch it on TV, it is one of the most painfully boring things a human being can endure. And there are a number of sports that fall into this category. In fact, quite a lot of them. A fair few sports are not unwatchable for a short period of time. So, you know, the highlights of can be a thing, you know, when various matches, whatever they call them, are covered. You know, a brief highlights of today's sport that takes half an hour, covers, say, 15-20 matches. Great. So-and-so and so-and-so, you know, so-and-so beat so-and-so in a really long, drawn-out, painful thing. Especially Wimbledon. You know, great. You've saved yourself 4 hours of watching them bat in a tennis ball to find out that after 4 hours of batting a tennis ball, so-and-so won. In some sports where there are, let's say, accidents, like skiing and some form of motorcycling, even cycling. So-and-so was injured in this spectacular crash. Well, sometimes it's quite interesting to go, out, oot, each, as arms and legs are flailing everywhere. Again, a little bit of interest, but you only really needed to see that one portion. Don't need a pin for this. And to me, I fear lace making falls into this category, in that for a short duration, it is, oh, that's how that's done. Oh, I see, yeah, okay. And then you do that with it, okay. Maybe ask a question. Oh, now I understand. You're not going to watch every flipping minute of me doing this. I absolutely understand that. Because, well, we've got a lot of these to make. As a reminder, I have completed 1 triangle so far out of the 72 triangles that I need. So, we've got a lot of triangles to go. They're all going to be identical. So let's be under no illusion that there's going to be spectacularness. Unless I stuff up. To be honest, again, it is the accidents or mistakes that make it more interesting. So so then it boils down to the things that I talk about. And I can rabbit and bore you stupid about all manner of subjects, but really it should be related to this. Well, I don't know that much to talk about lace making. I mean, I can talk to you about the stitches. We did cover a bit about how, much like religions and languages, they share some commonality, but that they also share, they do all of this the same. Oh, but not that bit, and and all the rest of it. But the truth of it is, despite the humongous great pile of books in front of my TV, I don't know that much. I mean, I can tell you that it was, that it was mainly the rich who wanted it, and the poor people who made it. And the poor people who made it had to be trained from an early age to do it, so that when they were old enough, they could make a living from it. So, because, the toffs paid well for it, but I'm sorry, I wouldn't, it's not exactly a 3-hour lecture, is it? So it is. I mean, I have got books to read, but I don't think they really cover the history. An awful lot of books, or many crafting books actually, for example, will tell you that to do a rose ground, as I'm about to start another one, you start with a whole stitch on either side, and if they're already there, you don't do another one. You then do a half stitch at the top. You pin it. If you don't stuff up the pins and stab yourself violently, which I'm about to do. So you pin it, and that goes in the top hole, so you can find it. You then cover the pin by doing another half stitch. You do a half stitch to the left or right, whichever is your preference, it doesn't really matter. Pin it, half stitch again, go to the other side, do the other side with a half stitch, a pin and a half stitch. You make the bottom one and do a half stitch, find another pin, stab it, cover your pin with another half stitch, and then make the final corners with the half stitch. Thus, one has made a rose ground. Now, there are variants to that. So instead of half stitches, you can use whole stitches and a few other things. But in essence, that's it. And there are lots of books that tell you, do this and do that, and and this was something I brought up on one of the groups, is there are an awful lot of things on, here's how to do a ground, here's how to start this, here's how to do that, here's how to, and that's great. And next to none of them tell you how to stop. An awful lot of the books get you to do a bookmark, And so you start with a triangle top. Looks super smart. You get to the bottom, they kind of go, gather up all your threads, tie them in a knot. Ta-da! Not everything can end up in a tassel. Now, arguably this could end up in a tassel, but we're fortunate that when we get round to the final side, we will have the the first line of lace there and the last line of lace there, and we will sew the two together. It is the one time you can and do arguably put some knots in, which we will. I will then daub them with my trusty pot of glue, which I have just here. This stuff is the bomb. Washable PVA glue. Now, obviously, washable might not be so good for this, because obviously I will have to wash the net curtain at some point. But the knots themselves should hold. I can put a micro dot of glue on each one, just a little bit of safety to... Because, to be honest, once they've been there for a while, it's a bit like if you put your hair in a plait. It tends to hold the kinks, and threads do the same. If they have been in a certain position for a really long time, they absorb that position. So the knots then, once they've been there a while, will kind of stay in place. So it does have some logic behind it. But like everything, we will then have to sew the squares together. That's not too hard. I mean, there are worse things to do in that. I've definitely done worse things than that. So, but again, I fear for you, my dear viewer, that this is not the most captivating stream of all time. And I'm not entirely sure how I can change that. We got ads in about a minute. Believe me, they're only every half an hour. Sometimes they seem to come around really, really quickly, especially if I've stuffed up recently. And like all good things, they seem to show up right when I'm in the middle of something. So, but anyway, never mind. We should do the ad thing. I should also say, to avoid ads, if you subscribe, it doesn't show you the ad. Or if you have Turbo, by the way. Turbo then stops all of the ads on all of the channels, and the people still get the money like you watch the ads. So. Stupid pen. Really? I've drunk all my Coke already? Wow. You actually made me think for a minute there, Elizabeth. I was thinking about work, because obviously, you know, I do that for a living, and it made me think of well, you and I have remarkably repetitive hobbies, and it kind of allows the brain to wander. Whereas if you're doing something like embroidery, even though, for example, cross stitch is quite repetitive, there is a lot more, let's call it attention to detail. For you and me, especially once you have remembered your repeat kind of thing, I don't really need to remember mine, because there's a piece of paper saying do this, and so all I do is, it's a bit like paint by numbers. I do whatever stitch or whatever thing that it shows in front of me. So even though I designed it, I kind of almost don't need to remember what I'm doing, because, well, it tells me what I need to do next. And so we live in a world where brains can wander. I was saying to a friend of mine earlier that I listen to a lot of audiobooks when I do things like weaving, because your brain can wander. You can still talk to yourself over an audiobook. So I've just realised I want to package up these bobbins here, because they are done for at the moment. And so it is, you know, I do an awful lot of audiobooks. Because if you do miss a bit, you can always yell, especially if you're doing it over a bitch face. You can always yell restart chapter, or go back a chapter when you realise you've missed a chunk and it doesn't make any sense to you anymore. Or if you just kind of go, what? And because, you know, even though you were listening, it still didn't make any sense. So, you know, audiobooks are good for that. There are things where audiobooks don't work as well. They can be more of a distraction than a blessing. But for me, something like this, audiobooks are good. And I said this before, I bought, in fact, where are they? They were there minutes and minutes ago. There they are. I bought these. Now, these will look very similar to ones currently being advertised on the internet, but I bought these, which are Bluetooth, over the ear, not in the ear, kind of earbuds. Almost for the same reason. Part so that I could listen to something that's maybe copyright, and so I don't want it on my stream, but I can listen to it. But also, I helped a friend last weekend, set about putting all of the comments that came up in his Twitch channel to voice, so that while he works on his car, people can, you know, talk in chat, and he doesn't have to get out from under his car to come and look at the screen every so often, answer like a message from 20 minutes ago. He can hear, you know, he gets it read, you know, via some kind of slightly Stephen Hawking sounding voice, but he gets a text-to-speech thing, read him his Twitch chat, and he can now interact with them without actually having to get up. And so he can say, look, can you see this? You know, if you look here, you can see there's rust or whatever. And people can go, oh, that looks nasty. And he can go, yeah, I've got this stuff. And he doesn't need to kind of drag himself out from under what he's doing. And for the first time today, he was using it, and he was happy as a pig in poo, which is great, because he should be. He's a nice guy. We like people like that. But I was thinking that it does work similar with this, is that I am looking here at my mat. I am not looking over there at my computer monitor. And it would be good if I had maybe some quiet background music to keep my brain cells happy, because we don't overly like silence, and I'm sitting in silence because you can hear music, I can't. Because, and the reason for that is because if I can hear it, you'd hear it twice. You'd hear it come out of my speaker, you'd hear that my speaker was generating it, and then you'd get like a distorted one through the microphone, which is what used to happen when I was streaming before. And I ended up buying a headset, but I struggle with headsets because they always make my ears hurt. So I wanted to try these because ear kind of phone things are less pressure on my ears, because I've got funny ears. I can't sleep on my ears, but I need to sleep on my side. Think of that. I have to use donut-shaped pillows so that I do not put pressure on my ears, because otherwise I wake up in screaming agony. Some people can like fold their ears forward and roll them up. I can't. Mine are solid and it hurts, and so I can't sleep on them. And for the same reason, I cannot use headphones for very long, even really soft, saggy headphones, just because the pressure on my ears is too much. And so I got those. I mean, if I straighten my arm out, I am 2 inches from touching my PC. The Bluetooth can't reach my ears. Seriously? It's a meter. Now, admittedly, there is a table in the way with a little bit of foam on it. But it's like a meter away. Seriously? They can't maintain contact. And it's really off-putting, so I don't know quite what to do. The only thing I can do is move my computer, but then all the cables that need to get to my monitor and my computer table aren't long enough. And I need everything on my right hand side, and I can't have it on my right hand side, and just brain pickles. So I'm not quite sure what to do, because again, for me, like my friend, it would be nice if I had it reading out, because then I don't need to look up and see what you've said. I will hear it as soon as you've said it, and that is a great and glorious thing. And I kind of want to do that, but at the moment can't, and I'm not quite sure what to do about that. There might be another way to do it, and the reason I say that is because I can possibly run it from another device. Now, it would have to be another PC, but I do have... Can't use my work laptop because it's work laptop, obviously. But I do have a crappy laptop. It's got a kind of dying hard disk on it. But I could, arguably, put my crap top up and have it join Twitch chat with the text-to-speech thing, and have it sitting in line of sight of my ears or whatever it needs, so that the Bluetooth can work, just so it could read off the chat. I mean, sounds like so much effort, doesn't it? But it is stuff that I already own. Bonus on that remark, because obviously, having just spent all my spare money on a new camera, kind of don't really want to be spending any more at the moment, because I don't really have it. I'm not distinctly hugely poor, but I'm not exactly rich either. You know, if Elon Musk wishes to donate to my funds, I would be grateful. But the truth of the matter is, you know, Mr. Musk is rich for a reason, that he keeps his money. So, although he doesn't like blowing up rockets, so you know. But I do want to make this stream interesting, and I do want it to be fun for you guys as much as possible, even though I feel that there are limitations and kind of on the back foot, shall we call it. It was never an easy win, shall we say. It's not like gaming, because streaming gaming is a lot easier, because obviously the game is on the screen in front of you. You can have a little window in one corner with the chat kind of popping up so you immediately read it. You don't need a camera. Well, you can have a camera, obviously, but you don't need a camera. Because, well, obviously, you don't need special lighting. You don't necessarily need a really expensive microphone to pick it up. Because well, you can talk through a headset with a mic on it. All you really need is like a £35 headset with a mic on it, and you're off. Whereas, for this, I've had to buy lighting, I had to buy stuff for my camera to cheer my camera up, I bought a stream deck so that I can more readily change things, because of course, again with gaming, once the game is up, you kind of play the game, whereas I had different views. So obviously, for example, I can talk to you like this and you can have a watch of me while I do it, which is really quite boring. Or me in the corner while I talk to you while doing my lacy thing. And, you know, I've got various programs that I switch between to show you, you know, like we have Paint where we were calculating how many bobbins we should have at any one given point because my brain was losing its marbles. We had, you know, we've got the lace designing software where I designed this. You know, there's browsers to show you things like just how expensive bobbins can be. And, speaking of which, I was going to show you the pattern that I got today, wasn't I? Now, is it quicker to show you the pattern on the website or the pattern in the pattern? I think pattern in the pattern. Hang on one moment. I'm not going very far. Sorry, dog. I know you just got going. Yes. So, where is it? Here we go. Back again. So, this pattern is a little bigger than you might be expecting, I should warn you. So, this is the overall picture which drew me to it. So, you can see from this Celtic knots. Liz likes Celtic knots. And quite clearly, it kind of looks one piece. Well, it's not. It is done, she says, picking up what's on. So, for example, here is it showing you make 4 strips. Here is the strips. So here's like the top stroke, the bottom with the pointy bits. And if I scroll across, there is, go away piece of paper. We are done with you, thank you. Oh, I said we are done, thank you. Then there is this section, which is kind of the continuing section, because there is a second piece of card, which this is not going to roll out the way very well. Here we go. Which is one mega long one. And it shows you kind of here at the side pinpricks so that you can put a copy of one next to the other. But of course you only get one, so you'd have to copy it yourself, and it's not A4 in size, therefore copying it could be interesting. And so, but that thing is huge, and just for the scaring side of that, bear in mind this is around 100 bobbins. That needs 158 per strip. But I quite like that, and that has good potential for lace curtain number 2, shall we call it? Because it doesn't have, well, it does have joins, but it doesn't have joins. And this is the curiosity about it. In fact, let me find the website. She says, trying to remember the name of the website, because it was all in Italian and didn't make an awful lot of sense. Let me go find. Get rid of you because you will be annoying. There we go. That's the site. I then need to find the actual one that I was looking at, because that's not as easy as it sounds, because I'm not convinced they haven't taken it off the website, to be honest. Okay, 3 corner jewels. Is it in this one? No, it wasn't that one. as I said, oh, there it is. Oh no, that's just a fancy picture at the top. Is it this one? Yep. It's close though, but that's not it. Anyway, struggling to find the actual one. Is it a tablecloth perhaps? No. Although there are other tablecloths. The problem is because they put a kind of a copyright label over the top of it and only show you the I don't know how to explain it, the kind of distant view of the pattern, it's not always easy to pick out which one it is. So why bedspread perhaps? I think it was a bedspread. No, it must be in the shawls because I'm sure it was a shawl. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's that one. But let me have a look. Of course, now I can't find it. Just sit still, dog. You're being annoying. I know it's here. I just can't see it for looking. Just sit still, will you? Stop bumping into me. What are you? No, that's not it. What are you? That's not it either. Anyway, let me show you some of their stuff. So, for example, if I show you this page, hang on, let me come back and show you my browser. So if I show you this, this is one of the, it's not the one, but it's very similar. So here it shows like the pointy ends and strips, and it's clearly one piece. You can, if you very carefully squint, see some lines going down, and then it shows you like the pattern pieces as we've seen. As I say, this is very similar but not the exact one. So the one that I bought, actually one of the pictures was a part way through someone working on it, and it was very clear that they'd made a strip and they were now making another strip next to it. So I have a good hope that I can achieve making something like this without total and utter insanity. But maybe not today, clearly. Maybe not today. So that would then, I mean, obviously you've got to work out how to finish the points without them looking a little bit dog-eared, because as I've said, the finishing part of lace seems to be a bit more of a black box, in that there are tons YouTube videos, how to start this, how to make a flat top that looks like this, how to make sides that look like this, how to do various stitches. There's like 2 on finishing, and both of them are kind of methods to draw it to a point and tie them in a knot. Okay, but I want the top and the bottom to look the same. So if you start in a point, and you can make a gloriously good looking point, I want to finish making a point that looks tidy and sexy and just like the other end, so that you can't tell which way round I did it. That is what I want. I am not sure how possible this is. Now, with the Celtic knot Milanese style thing that I made, it is harder to tell where I started and harder to tell where I stopped, but in part because there's quite a few starts and stops, but it kind of works. So, but that is again in part because you make a piece and join the other end, a bit like these squares are going to do, where you get to an end and there's a stitch right in front of you, and basically you tie onto the stitch in front of you, ta-da, right? If you come to a point there is nothing, and the biggest problem you get is that when you tie a knot, in fact these will do perfectly because they're huge, when you make a knot there are little ends like bunny ears. Now okay, the finer the thread and maybe fairly short bunny ears, but you still have bunny ears. And if you have 158 bobbins, that's a lot of bunny ears, because obviously, well, there's 158 ears. And then it looks fuzzy. And I made a bookmark, and carefully as I could, trimmed as close as I could. And all I can do when I look at that bookmark is look at the end, because my eyes are drawn to it, where the knots are, because you can almost see the knots, because, well, they're knots. And the bunny ears, and you're kind of sitting there going, there's got to be better than this. And yes, you can sew the ends back into your work, a bit like knitting, but of course with lace, it's 99% whole. So if you double up a thread, it can look, and obviously if you have 158 threads, you've got quite a lot to hide, but it doubles it up, it makes it look fat and chunky and kind of like a mistake, and so you don't really want to do too much of that either. And I have, bless my poor bank account, I'm feeling a bit broke this month. Part of the reason I'm feeling broke this month is I have ordered some videos, and they've had to come from America, even though one of them is done by a Brit, so let's not think about that too much. But it's done, but I've got a video on various kind of lace kinds, so maybe I'll be able to talk a bit more about that. But also a video, probably an hour or so. Admittedly, it's starting and finishing techniques, but let's hope that there's as many finishing techniques as starting techniques, and that she is going to be able to teach me a bit more about how to make less clunky, crappy finishings, because it's too easy to make them look awful. It truly is. And it's you know, if you think of how my you know, I mean, I know this triangle is not the best triangle to demonstrate this with, but, I mean, because I deliberately just cut the ends and left it. But if you've got a glorious triangle, ignoring the fact the demonstration that we tried another stitch in this section, obviously this is the triangle type that we're making. We just use this stitch here and not spangled bobbins. So, but this is, you know, kind of, you know, would have been a third side if, you know, we would be on side 3 if we kept going, kind of thing. But as you can see from here, the edge, it's hard, even though I just trimmed it, kind of thing. I did tie them in knots and then just trimmed it. I did not try and pretend to hide the edges, because, well, it was only going to be, it was a test for the principles of the rest of it. And this really has, you know, this first triangle really did kick me into believing I'd made all the right decisions. The right decisions about the size of thread, the right decision on the scale of the pattern, the right decision on the stitches that I'd chosen. It made me feel quite confident about my net curtain. And of course, the fact that you then hide the knots and the finishes. So, for example, if we go to this screen and look at this square, while I know exactly where the knots and the bunny ears are, they do not stand out because all of the edges are neat and tidy, which is the whole reason I stayed with squares, to be honest. Because I did contemplate a lot about other things and how to join things together. I stuck with squares because it's easier to hide the end. So it is, you know, you can call me a bit of a chicken. That's fine. I'll happily wear that. I'm a chicken. But it meant that I knew that at this point in my lace making, I would make something that would not really upset me because I couldn't finish the bottom. Now, one thing I can do, and it can go into the consideration pile, is I've already thought about the fact that I will need to attach the lace, maybe top, only the top or top and bottom, depending on my choice at the time, to attach it to the window. Therefore, if I really did make a bit of a pig's ear of the finishing, I'd be able to hide it in amongst, say, a bit of bias tape. So I can arguably cheat, but I still want to know. I still want to be able to achieve a really nice finish. And people don't talk about that. People really, really don't talk about that. We've got ads in a couple of minutes. As I say, time flies sometimes. But we are making 72 of these with obviously this stitch the same as that. This one does not count. This was samplage. This is the real deal, and this is triangle number 2. Triangle number 1 is underneath this blue cloth, being carefully protected from the storm. Where did my pins go? There they are. And we will make square number 1. And then we'll only have 17 more squares to go. Well, it does fill me with joy when people have got questions, because it shows that you're interested and not just kind of watching out politeness kind of thing. And not that watching out politeness is a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to think that you are interested, or that you have curiosity into what's going on, or something that didn't make sense to you and you want to understand, because I enjoy learning. It's part of the reason I've done many of the things in my adult life. I learned to make games because, well, I could. I learned to weave because I could. I learned to double knit because I could. I did karate because I could. So yes, never feel free. Never think that you can't ask me a question. Did it not run the ad? Did it get bored? There they go. do have one question, and this one is aimed towards my American friends. I read this, so I did take it with a pinch of salt, so don't get me wrong. But I need to explain a little bit about why I want to ask this question. Now, obviously, I do not want to ask a personal question. I want to ask a generic, is this really true kind of question. So, the thing that I read was that the wage at McDonald's, the normal starting wage at McDonald's, was $40,000 a year. Now, to us as Brits, that's ridiculous. So, part of the reason this feels ridiculous to us Brits, A, we do not pay for our healthcare, therefore we do not have, £250,000 bills for breaking a leg or whatever. So, with all this in mind, our wages are arguably less because we pay taxes. If your salary was around £30,000, somewhere in the region of £10,000 of that goes to the government. Okay, so you really only take home about 2/3 of what you actually earn. I believe the exact figure is 27%. But now they've introduced mandatory pensions. I'm not so sure that that's true anymore, but that was the last time I checked. Anyway, so we in the UK often feel vastly underpaid when we hear American salaries. So, for example, I've been working since I was 16 years old. I have a 2-figure thousand salary, and I am better paid than some, distinctly less paid than others. I know people where I work who distinctly earn significantly more than me. But I can also point you to people with 30 years experience of work, not necessarily in IT, who barely earn £25,000 a year. Bear in mind, a third of that goes straight to the government. So, with that in mind, the idea of a $40,000 income, which is about £32,000, just for kind of scale, seems a lot. Because over here, you'd get, I think it's about £18,000 a year as a McDonald's full-time employee. So, to be told that, because basically someone was moaning that they'd gone for an interview and they'd gone through, I think it was 2 or 3 interviews, it had taken about 4 or 5 hours, and they were only offering about $60,000 a year. And I'm thinking, I need to move. If you guys are offering 40 grand for, McDonald's, and, all they would want, the advert for the job that they went for was not quite school leaver, but it was like 2 years experience, and lots of people were applying, we are insulted, that's ridiculous, that's far from enough. And I'm kind of going, there are people here who retired and are managers who weren't earning that. I mean, my dad was a manager. When my dad retired, now admittedly it was a while ago, but when my dad retired, my dad earned £22,000 a year. And he worked for a well-known company in this country. It wasn't a 2-bit, one-man band job. It was it was a bank, so, it's a well-known company over here. But he earned, despite being senior and have worked there all of his life, £22,000 a year. And I earn more than that, to be fair. But at the same time, I'm not dancing in the street. And it seems really weird to me that there is very much a different expectation of salary, because I remember, a lot of these short video things that get on your nerves. guy with 6 months experience was earning 100k over there. And it's like, unless you own the company over here, you kind of don't earn that money. And or you're a stock trader, right? You know, or you're a drug dealer. There's only kind of a couple of roles where that's going to be possible. And yet he was a junior programmer. Junior! I work for a well-known company. I am the European server lead for a particular operating system. I don't even earn half that. I'm sorry, but you know, I am the European lead, and I have been working for 30-something years, and I do not earn half that. And apparently, this is insulting. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times when I would wholeheartedly agree with you. Some days I fed like I fed the 5,000 with a peanut, and I feel somewhat undervalued. But we all have days like that when you feel like you went above and beyond because you've managed to dig someone out of a very big hole that was not of your making. But at the same time, looking at, you know, being fair to the wages, the average wage in the UK is £34,000. So to be told that McDonald's in America are basically handing that out as their starting wage feels, well, kind of excessive. It does kind of explain a few things because, we all know that TV's not real, so bear with me on this. I'm not entirely stupid. But when you're watching TV and these people don't have jobs and yet they've got a car and a huge TV and that, you know, they can go on holiday, and well, I'm not surprised if the idea of the living wage is kind of £40,000-50,000. It's, I'm sorry. I've worked long and hard for that. So, do I need to emigrate? Is this something we should be discussing? It was somewhat startling. So are your medical bills, frankly, but because not all, we don't always get to choose when our medical bills strike. So 2 years ago, because it is two years ago now. Yeah, I think it's 2 years ago now. I still do actually. I have a skin tag somewhere where the sun doesn't shine. On the bottom of my bottom. See, thank you for that, Elizabeth. That makes me feel a lot better because you can picture it though. Can you imagine that someone says to you that frankly, even the 40k that McDonald's are paying them is kind of insulting. It's not enough to get out of bed, and your brain's kind of going, it's a lot of money, Now I do, and especially when I remember, again, it was a good few years ago, but I remember someone I knew she'd bought a plot of land, she'd hired an architect, and she was going to build a house that they designed. Now over here, that's not an easy thing to do. You just don't really do it over here. You can, but you don't really. Right? It's only really expensive people who've got millions in their pocket to do that kind of thing. Us mortals do not do that kind of thing. Wow, dog, you smell. And her house cost her £40,000. And I'm like, love, I couldn't buy the mud for £40,000. A lot of British people don't realise that if the list price of your house is, say, £500,000, which is quite an expensive house, but, let's pick it because it's an easy number. It did. Yes, and that's something I kind of don't understand, because, obviously, as I say, I do appreciate that any medical bill is seemingly designed to sink you. But also, there's been a lot of talk, and from what I can tell, the American healthcare bills that you get, so, £40,000 to have a baby, well, it kind of doesn't add up, because £40,000 to have a baby, but if it's on insurance, the insurance will pay this much of it, and then they agree to wipe the rest. So it didn't cost that much, but that's how much they felt they could get away with charging because they could, right? And British houses are kind of priced in a similar manner. So if you take a house that is on the market for £500,000, I can assure you the house and the mud probably cost £60,000 to £80,000. The rest is all them pushing their luck and the fact that they know they can ask it and people will pay it. Which of course pushes the prices up, because then, well, if they can ask for £500,000 for it, well, I want £500,000 for mine, and he wants £500,000 for his, because, well, you would, right? And too much of it is everyone's after getting the maximum amount of beans for the minimum effort. And it is a beautiful line from Armageddon. We are sitting on £500,000 worth of explosives in a rocket put together by the lowest bidder. And to be honest, everything's like that. Whatever industry you're in, you are almost certainly buying items that the company wanted. So whether it's your TV, whether it's your car, you are buying items that the individual things that they had to buy in were the lowest price they could get for what they wanted, that was of a reasonable standard ish, give or take a bit. And it is kind of disappointing, because obviously, we all know that in this day and age, many things don't last like they used to. And a lot of the reasoning for that is people buy the cheapest bit. But you're saying lots of Americans are in debt. Well, hello, quite a few British people are in debt too, so that's not too much of a surprise. But what doesn't make sense is how, if people are claiming that the minimum wage at McDonald's, where they are at least, is £40,000, rent can be £2,000-3,000 a month. Well, that's most of your £40,000 salary when you add food, getting to work, buying clothes, having a bit of a life. We're not talking an extravagant life, even a bit of a life. That kind of sucks. All of that money gone. Now, we all want a nice car. We all want a nice house. We all want nice things. But most people have to accept that they can't have everything they want. They have to make do. They have to go with that which they can afford. And if that means running down, in my case, I've got an 07 plate car, so my car's 16 odd years old. Doesn't worry me. Admittedly, it doesn't work at the moment, but it doesn't entirely worry me. That's right, I've decided I'm going to pull some pins out, because, well, that's a fun game. I like pulling pins out. I just need to check that I did actually push all pins down that I want before I start randomly ripping them all out. That looks like a clear gateway of pins down the side. Yep, that looks like clear. We will pull some pins out. So, and one of the things that we do get over here, they don't tend to advertise it as much as they used to, because they all got told off for it, was, for example, are you struggling? Are you in debt? Are you struggling to pay off your bills? Now, in essence, the following statement is not untrue. You could roll up all your bills into one loan with us. Now, if you bought, because loans fluctuate and over time, and, if you took out a loan at an unfortunate time when all the interest rates were high, maybe the interest rate's higher on that and you could get a loan with a better interest rate, and so moving is not a necessarily bad concept. But if you got a low rate one, well then moving to a higher rate one would be stupid. But on top of that, what they actually were saying in the advert was, so they'd show some woman and she'd be kind of, oh, I'm so struggling, I can't possibly pay my bills, oh no, woe is me. take out our loan. Or her mate goes, have you heard of this company? They did a really good loan for me. And she'd go, oh no. And she'd go off and have a look at it. And a couple of weeks, kind of sometime later, they'd meet up. Oh, how are you doing? Oh yes, I took out that loan and I even bought a new car. Or we went on holiday and bought a new car. Bitch, if you couldn't pay off your loans because you were struggling, why did you just go and spend like another £12,000? If you were not able to afford, you could not afford to go on holiday. Holiday is not a right, it is a privilege. Stop encouraging people who are already struggling to afford their life to take out your loan, maybe save a few extra quid in comparison, because of course they're still in debt, and rather than pay off the loan quicker, no, borrow more and spend more and now earn probably more than you owed in the first place, and should interest rates change, it'll kill you. And so, don't do that. That is not a plan. That is not how this should work. And those adverts used to really make me irate, because I know someone, I have a good friend, who could not understand why maybe going on holiday, if you change the loan and maybe save, I don't know, £100 a month, why going on holiday that costs £1,000 after a few months is a bad thing. Because it's not your money, you still owe all of that money. Yes, you're paying it off at a lesser rate and achieving maybe paying off as much as you were, because it's a lesser rate interest, and as long as it made sense. But now you've gone and spent another £1,000 which you didn't actually have to spend. It's not like because if you had £1,000 to spend, you should have paid off the loan and had money in your pocket. And I should point out that I don't know for a fact, but judging by the amount my friend was paying at one point, I reckon they probably had £180,000 worth of debt. They did not buy a house with that. That was not a mortgage. And it took them a really long time to pay it off. It's their money, their choice, not my problem. But it kind of concerned me because, well, only in the sense of I worry for my friends, because you're sitting there going, how did you get that far in? How can you need to spend thousands a month out of your wages on debt? I mean, one bill alone I know was £600 a month. My mortgage wasn't that much. And it's that kind of thing, is you're sitting there going, so you've got loans and loans and more loans and credit cards and all of that, and basically most of your wages are going straight on debt, and you want a new car. Well, I'd love a new car, but my old car's perfectly good, so I'm not getting one. And I am not in debt. I arguably could go and get a loan and put myself in debt for a bit, but go and get a new car, and I would only have the car in debt. I think technically, actually, I've probably got enough savings to buy a second-hand car of dubious but reasonable, low quality but not, falling apart kind of level. But I want to keep those savings so I don't spend them, so I act like I don't have them, because that way it's best and they stay there. But it's not that I will starve, because I can always, dip into them should I have to, but I'm trying not to. So I was always brought up to save then buy, not buy then pay off. And to be fair, other than a mortgage, I pretty much have. In fact, I have, she says, thinking about it. I have never taken out a loan on anything other than buying my house. Which I paid off very early. Due to my car accident money, to be fair. I got a payout of £40,000 for my car accident, and it just so happened that money, when interest rates, well, I was going to say when interest rates, but the interest rates hadn't they were about to go nuts, and that's wrong somehow. Let's have a good look at this. So let's come out of this. Undo you. You look wrong. You seem to be coming from the wrong part of the world. So let's... You'll soon see what I mean. I'll zoom in it when I've extracted the pin. That one. And again. So if you look, they are not coming from the right pin. In fact, they definitely don't seem to be coming from the right pin. So if I zoom in as much as I can and try and focus that a little bit. Right. I know there are 1,000 bobbins and 1,000 bits of string here. So let's undo some of that, and I think it's because I've tried to incorporate the next pin too soon. In fact, I'm very confident that that's what I've done. So let's get back to what I was doing. Let's put the pin in there. You should be... Actually, let's undo that pin for a second, because I've stopped mid-stream. So you are that pin. You... So let's zoom... Right, you are zoomed in as much as I can make it. Let me make this big on my screen so I can see what you see a little better. Ooh, that's a bit blurry-ish. There we go. So, where's my stick of pointing? We're going to use this as my stick of pointing at the moment. Let me straighten this a little bit more. Right, so these two pinholes here. Why does there appear to be a pinhead in the way? I think it's just a wonky pin. It's really weird. That is freaky. It is. It's a wonky pin. That pin is not where it looks to be. Right. Anyway, these two pinholes here that do not have pins in. This pin is pin of wonky factor, right? This string comes from this pin which feeds that hole. That's fine. These, which are the next two, do not seem... So, while these two look like they come from this pin here, they don't. They actually are the pin above. Again, the pin heads are in the way and not making this as clear. Let me see if I can push them down a bit more to make them kind of go away a little bit. That might help. Right. So these ones come from this pin here to this hole marked by this pinhead that's leaning over in the way. So that's fine. These two look more like they're going to that pin down there than this one up here. Now one thread, this thread, is clearly on the right side of the pin. This I am cool with. But these seem... it's those two. It's you two. You were crossed in a very, very bizarre, hidden, nasty, cheaty manner. And by trying to show you it and glare at it on camera, it became a little more obvious. This is the problem with the pinheads, and why you don't notice you screwed up, because, well, it masks things. So let's untwist you a lot, because we don't... And so we need to twist you, and then we need to do a whole stitch, so that you are ready to make the next four. You can sod off from it. So yes, let me zoom out again. I'm also looking forward to the fact that new camera will be doing the auto-focusing thing, and that I will not be trying to focus it for you, which proves to be harder than it sounds, because the art of focusing can be very, very, very specific, and the moment you let go, it's not where you thought. Well, it moves, and yeah. So yes, we can breathe easy that we averted a disaster there, for the first time in a while. Wow, is it midnight already? Blimey. I am determined that I want to finish this rose ground section. So let's see if we can't get on with it and stop talking for a bit. But perhaps if Liz shuts up and gets rid of the bent pin, if Liz shuts up, we can get to the bottom of this rose ground section. That still looks slightly funky. I think it is. I think it is my unhealthy paranoia. Can you not kick me in the butt, dog? I mean, you know. And I mean, to be fair to, you know, Elizabeth, you might, you know, again, to be fair to you, it must seem really, really strange that when I discovered that I had this skin tag on my butt and I went to the doctor and kind of went, yo, doc, is there any chance we can get rid of this skin tag? Because, you know, it's making life a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. And she went, oh, well, you know, the NHS is rather hot on this subject at the moment. So while you're here and we're talking about your posterior, I need to do finger up the hole technique. And she did the finger up the hole, and it was it was not the most pleasant, and clearly she was not enjoying it either. And she went, well, I can't see anything, that's really good, but they will still insist that we do, you know, you need to poop on a stick, and we need to do a blood test. So we did that. And then they lost the blood test and decided that the poop thing wasn't right, so I had to do it all over again. And then they went, we found blood in your poo. I've never seen blood in my poo. I am 52 years old, and even today, I have still, even when they chop bits of my stomach out, I have not seen blood coming out of that bit. Anyway, so I was kind of like, really? Okay. You need a colonoscopy. Okay, says me, not feeling entirely keen, but you know, okay, so agreed to that. Got a date, and they sent me things and said, you'll need to drink this. Okay, didn't tell me that it would be as aesthetically pleasing as drain cleaner. Well done, ads. So as I was saying, I'd agreed to the colonoscopy, which they don't really warn you about that in the way that they should. Because they kind of go, well, you will have to drink this stuff, and you'll drink this the night before, and it'll flush you out a bit, and then you'll go and you'll have the procedure, and it'll be an outpatient thing, so you'll go along, it'll be fine. What they don't tell you is that yes, you're drinking it the afternoon stroke evening of the day before, but for like 24 hours before that, you can only eat white food. And when I mean white food, you can have pasta, but no sauce on it. You can have chicken, no flavour on it. You can have potatoes, as long as you boil them, but no butter, because, well, that's yellow. And so literally you can only have white stuff. You're not allowed to drink Coke, tea, coffee, squash, any juice, whatever you want to call it. Any of that, you can have water. So by the time you get to the drinking of the industrial drain cleaner, you are already feeling kind of irritable and unhappy and a little bit grumpy because, well, it doesn't taste too good. And then you drink the industrial drain cleaner, and frankly, you spend the next 6 to 8 hours on the toilet praying and wondering how this is possible. Things your ancestors ate 2,000 years ago are coming out, right? It's not pleasant. You then have to get to the hospital while still basically pooping water, and we got a flat tyre. But you go along, and then they forgot me, and I'm sitting in a room. Yeah, that was fun. But they do the deed, and it is not pleasant. It, in fact, is, well, for me, was distinctly unpleasant. The first bit wasn't so bad, and in the first bit, they found Sluggy. Sluggy was round about an inch long, and he was a polyp in my lower bowel. And, well, went and got a doctor. Hi, Miss Kimber. Yeah, dude, you're talking to my butt. I have no idea what you look like, and you're having a conversation with my butt, which is bare with a 2 bath pits, and there's a big monitor in front of me that was like a 26-inch monitor with a picture of Sluggy on it. And of course, he was remarkably filling the screen because it is quite a, high-res camera. And so, there was Sluggy. And that was fine, and they kind of went, Anyway, they then continued up to have a look. Now, when you first enter the bowels of Satan, it's kind of a straight drive, and Sluggy was not far from the beginning of the tunnel. Once you've got up to kind of the rib cage, it does a bit of a hairpin bend. And I need to point this out. The hose pipe for which they insert is not designed to bend very well. So, I mean, it does, but it kind of doesn't at the same time. It's not like the cameras you see on army movies where they drill a small hole and they poke a little camera up and then they bend it 90 degrees and kind of telescope it around having a look. It does not bend like that. And when it got to the hairpin bend and wouldn't go round the bend and push, ow, push, ow, can you stop, can you, and things got a little bit more unbearable. At this point, I demanded every bit of painkiller and option that I could conceivably had, because until then, I'd not needed any. I mean, it was not pleasant, but it was uncomfortable. This hurt like a... So, they then went round and found Phil. Now, Phil is completely the other end of my bowel, and Phil is basically at the back behind the bike sheds having a fag, which is why he's called Phil. And Phil is still in there, by the way. He was very small and apparently nothing to be worried about. Now, I had signed some forms saying, if you need biopsies, get on with it, because, you're already in there. Can you do it while you're there? Oh, no. No, madam. Despite you signing the form and us asking if we can do that, oh, no, we want to do it again. What? So I had to go through the whole starvation industrial drain cleaner again, and it was slightly different industrial drain cleaner, and this stuff was actually more repulsive than the first, although, to be honest, the first was kind of something I wouldn't wish on my enemies. So we did it again. And they went in. And I was not stupid because they were going to be scraping and things. I went, I want the lot. I'll sign up for everything. I'm glad I did. Because I kind of went in and they pumped me full of some stuff and I was all, yay! And as far as I'm concerned, went to sleep. Now, it was not a general anaesthetic, so I was not actually asleep. But I was clearly not of sound body and mind. And time passed and I was obviously not particularly aware. Until my first recollection is screaming. I remember screaming and then opening my eyes because I was in agony. And it was distinctly unpleasant. Because, clearly I was screaming and I have a fairly high pain tolerance, to be honest. The doctor went, you need to sit, you'll need to stay still. It hurts. Can you stop? And he didn't. He kept going. And I'm screaming. And eventually it's like, we can't do this. We'll have to stop. Good, thinks me. He then calls it to a halt and says he's done what he needed to do, but not quite as much as he would have liked. Whatever. And they sent me out and, let me rest for a couple of minutes because obviously clearly I was a bit stressed and irate. And eventually he came round and I went, I'm in agony. And he's like, well, have a paracetamol. I'm sorry, what? Paracetamol? Okay, fine. And he fed me a paracetamol. And I'm not going to pretend that it made a substantial difference. But like all painkillers, every little bit helps. And it made it so that I could at least, I know, that's not what I wanted to be doing, sit up and contemplate putting my clothes on. So he sent me home. So home I went. I was still in agony. And a couple of hours later, I had to call the ambulance because I really was not right. And on my discharge form, because we get discharge forms, he actually wrote that he couldn't complete what he was doing because the patient was being difficult. Well, because it hurt, dude. Anyway, I waited, as it turns out, about 9 hours for an ambulance. Yeah, the Americans, yeah, I did. I waited 9 hours for the ambulance to come. Because I live alone, I did phone a couple of friends who had called on me in their time of need, and I responded and turned up at, stupid o'clock on, armed to the teeth with whatevers whenever they needed. But in my time of need, neither of them answered the phone. I should have called my neighbours. They would definitely have come in hindsight, but I didn't think of it. It was not what I thought of at the time. So, the ambulance came eventually at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And they, what's the matter, love? And it's kind of like, well, I'm in agony. I had this done yesterday. Here's my discharge form. 3, 4, 5. Right. And I am in agony. I cannot move. I have been sitting here for the last 9.5 hours and I cannot move. Well, do you have any painkillers? Yeah, I've got some codeine in the kitchen, but I cannot move. So I explained to them where it was and they went and got me some codeine. But they also did an ECG and they went, well, we're not overly happy with your ECG. And I went, do you really expect someone who's been in agony, trying not to scream for the last 9 odd hours, to have an ECG that looks, calm and collected? I don't think so. They were going, okay, we can see the point of that. Anyway, they decided they would take me to hospital. So to hospital I went. I was there 4 days. And the first day, I got there about 9 o'clock in the morning. And they kind of had to do a COVID test because it was not long after COVID after all. But they had to do COVID test and I was fine. That's fine. I did then get to see a doctor but they kind of poked and prodded a little bit, and I screamed a lot, and they kind of went, and then I got sent back to what we, the patients, called the waiting for death room. Now, the reason we refer to it in that is because none of us knew entirely why we were there other than we were in agony, and we were all sitting in a chair. There was no TV, no radio, no nothing, not even water, and you just sat. No food offered, no nothing. 5:30 in the afternoon, so I got there at 9 o'clock, 5:30. So bear in mind, this is now rapidly heading to 22 hours after I got home the day before. I'm still in yesterday's clothes because I haven't moved. I get sent down for an MRI. I go and have my MRI, and almost immediately they go, right, you're gonna feel the strange warm sensation, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Okay, whatever. Did that. When they put me back outside and, were waiting for some porter to come and get me so that I could go back up to the waiting to death room. Oh wait, we've been asked to do your chest too. Okay, whatever. So I went back in, had that. Had to have it all again. 6:30, nurse comes into the waiting for death room. Wheelie trolley full of identical bags of stuff. Literally exactly the same stuff. And started giving each and every one of us the same stuff. Bear in mind, at this point, none of us still knew exactly why we were there. Now, one thought she had burst her appendix because that was quite likely. Most of it was stomach stroke, bowel stroke, whatever related, but one of them was definitely not. And we literally were all getting this bag of antibiotics. Same amount, everybody, right? Seemed a little bit kind of, we don't know what to do, so we're doing this kind of thing. 11 o'clock at night, I get a bed. And I'm shown to my bed. Of course, I have not got anything with me other than the phone in my pocket and the clothes I was wearing from the day before. So I kind of lie there in my clothes because, well, I can't move enough to get out of my clothes. So I lie there in my clothes and I don't overly sleep. We then get some woman who reacted badly to her general anaesthetic join us. And while she was having her tonsils out, so she clearly was not having a bowel issue. And the morning broke. And you kind of go, hi everybody, because you're in a room with 3 other people. Hello. Well, actually it was 5 other people. And it's kind of like, hello. Don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm here now. Hello. Anyway, doctors came round about 10:30, 11 o'clock. We'd had another bag of this antibiotic crap by this point. And again, all of them had the same antibiotic crap. It was beginning to feel like a little bit of a kind of staple. Anyway, that's right, I'm just checking that I did that right, because that's looking funky to me. It's because I need to do that. That's why I think. No, that looks funky. Hang on, head in tight. No, that's right. And the doctors came round and ran away, and I called the nurse and I went, so why am I here? What is actually wrong with me? Oh, I don't know. Well, can you go read my notes, perhaps? I haven't got time for that. They were really, the nurses on this ward were, don't get me wrong, nurses are busy, and I ended up explaining this to one of the nurses. I said, we know you're busy, but you've got to remember that we, the patients, are not. The patients are maybe sitting here in agony with no idea, having been here for more than 24 hours now. We haven't got any more idea of what was wrong with us than when we started. And, you're pumping us full of something, but we don't really know why. And all we're asking is, when is something happening? And she got really quite irate because, well, we don't have time to be pandering to your every whim. Not asking for every whim. I'm asking, what is wrong with me? Anyway, it was another 24 hours before I found out what was wrong with me. And guess what? I'd guessed that he'd perforated my bowel. Because, well, you know, realistically, what were the choices? A man had been up there with, you know, the Hubble telescope and a scrapey cutty device, and I'd suddenly had immense amounts of pain. So, kind of logic dictated that this was a likely outcome. Apparently, he did not feel that it was a likely outcome because, of course, I was just being difficult. The fact that he might have nicked something, and the reason that it hurt is because, of course, they're pumping you full of air and water at that point. So swelling up now the inside of your guts, not just the inside of your bowel. Didn't seem to connect to Mr. Expensive, but I was right. Well, what are you going to do about it? Oh, nothing. Sorry, what? Now, one of the quickest ways to die is a perforated bowel. One of the most painful things one can endure, apparently. I didn't know this, but I have, you know, read a few things online and internet-y things and books and stuff, is actually a perforated bowel. And I would like to say I can believe that. I truly would. I mean, I've never had kids, but the amount of pain that I had, because I remember saying to the nurse when I was in the waiting for death room that, you know, I thought, you know, this must surely is a perforated bowel. And she goes, oh no, it can't be. You'd be in agony. And I'm like, have you seen me trying to walk? Seriously, have you not seen how I'm walking? It takes me like 20 minutes to move 1 metre. Love, I'm not doing this because I'm bored. It kind of hurts. Anyway, I was right. And they pumped me full of some antibiotics, quote, and let it heal itself. And then, come the Saturday, well, they didn't tell us how much antibiotics they were going to feed any of us. They didn't give anyone a clear picture of when they could go. And the woman who was in a bed opposite me was an elderly woman. And she clearly was struggling mentally with a lot of it, as were most of us, to be fair, because it was a really, 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 really hot day. And you couldn't open the windows in case people leapt out of them. And it's like, I'm beginning to understand why they leap out of them, to be honest. So, this poor woman, she was told by the doctors that assuming her tests came back okay, she'd be able to go home in the afternoon. So she phoned, I assume it was her husband, but she phoned this bloke to say, I'll be able to go home soon. So, you know, will you be able to come and get me? Yes, yes, yes. Well, come 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they still, quote, hadn't had the tests back. Because, well, they lost them. And this poor woman clearly was at the end of her wits. She had had enough, and to be honest, I was having enough of looking up her nightie, because she would lie with her legs propped up, you know, kind of knees up on top of her bed, and she wasn't wearing pants. So I was kind of, you know, would have appreciated a change of view. But she was so upset to the point that at this point I was beginning to be slightly more mobile, in that I could actually go to the toilet by this point. And, you know, I didn't have to plan for 3 hours in advance to do it. And I was like, do you need a hug? Because she was really hard not to cry. And she nodded, and I gave her a big hug, and she burst into tears because she was just so unhappy. Anyway, 8 o'clock at night, oh, we've decided you can go now. Really? You've made her wait all day. She'd got back in her nightie because, you know, she wanted to go to sleep. Now you tell her she can go home? You bastards. Anyway, kind of same thing happened to me. You know, it's like, so how many more of these how many more bags of crap are we having? Oh, you only have 1 more. Then it was 3 more. And you're like, can you just not tell us the truth? Can you, if you don't know, say you don't know. Don't make it up. Don't give us false hopes, because, I mean, to be honest, my last night in, I went on a food raid. I wasn't hungry, but if you've ever had UK hospital food, you'll understand. Anything other than, you wanted like chocolate, you wanted crisps, you wanted something that wasn't gross. And so me and another lady went on a raid, and we just fled. We waited till the nurses weren't looking, and we pegged it out the door. And we did. And we went downstairs and someone actually, we were passing and we kind of went, are there any like food shops or vending machines? And they went, oh yeah, there's one by the entrance. And we were off. We kind of couldn't have run fast enough. Not that I could run. I was still shuffling, but you know, we made it and we came back with snacks. It was a bit like a midnight snack run for a dorm at school. You know, it was kind of like we went off. We didn't steal it. We paid for it, obviously, but it kind of felt like we'd snuck to the kitchens and stolen food. It was because, of course, we had actual food. So it was a very trying time. And I got to go home the next day, and I was collected by my friend, which was very kind of them. My neighbours had been looking after my dogs all of this time, which was exceptionally kind of them, because I was getting videos and pictures of my dogs and cheering me up the whole time. And when I say they were checking in on my dogs, I've got a friend, and her idea would have been she'd have come in the morning, she'd have let them out in the garden, and then she'd have come in the evening, let them out in the garden, fed them, and gone home, right? These people, my neighbours, are the nicest people in living history. And my neighbours were here about every 90 minutes for 40 minutes. They spent half their time, during the day at least, and evening, with my dogs. Playing in the garden, because it was summertime, so they were out in the garden, playing the ball for them. You know, they fed them, they watered them, they hugged them. They did everything, and I've never felt such gratitude for people in my life, but they truly were the nicest people, and I get on really well with my neighbours, clearly, because they were really nice people. I need you to, sorry. So when it came to, so obviously they now had Sluggy in their hands, and it took them a lot longer to decide if Sluggy tested purple or not. In case you don't know, when you're testing for cancer, you stain it with stuff, and if it goes purple in the right way, then it's cancerous. And many weeks later, I'd already done some Googling, and it kind of said, if your lump was this big and you know, this tall and this deep, and you know, most likely it is this, and if, you know, basically gave you the statistical probabilities. And due to the fact that Sluggy was quite large, but he was not angry looking, in fact he was very healthy looking, he was a little bit of a surprise to them that he turned out to be cancerous. And so I eventually got called in, and it's like, you know, we've got your results, we would like you to come in and discuss it. Well, clearly it's not fine, because, well, you just say there's nothing more to do, it's all fine, you know, see you next century kind of thing. So clearly there was something up, and they took me in, and I had to wait 3 hours for that appointment. My appointment was like, you know, 2 o'clock, and I think it was nearly 5 o'clock before I got in, and I was getting a little bit kind of shitty about it, because, well, I was. Because waiting around in the hospital waiting room is just such a joyous experience. And they took me to this room, and it literally was a cupboard. There was like stacks of curtain dividers and some other, you know, some propped up beds against the wall. And this was clearly as far away from the waiting room as they could physically take me. And my doctor, lovely bloke, he kind of sat there, and he went, and he kind of started whittering on, and I kind of, after about 5 minutes, went, so you didn't get a clear margin? And he's looking at me, and he then went on about how, you know, how cancer can be, you know, it's not always, you need extra space. And it's like, I've given you the words, I've already told you what you're trying to tell me. It took him 90 minutes to explain that he didn't get, well, it wasn't him who was doing it, but they didn't get a clear margin, and that it was cancerous. And I kind of went, okay, so what's the plan? Are we doing chemo, radiation? You know, and he went, well, you know, well, because it is stage 1C or whatever it was, you have a choice. You can do nothing, because we may have got it all, because just because we didn't get a huge margin does not mean we didn't get it all. you can do literally nothing, or we would like to chop it out. Okay. You're going to do chemo in the meantime. No, just chop it out. Okay. And we can do that next month. Okay, so chop it out. And I was just kind of like, so chop it out. Okay. Well, so he then decided to poke and prod and have a bit of a look round, and actually had the cheek to tell me that the surgery would be complicated by the scar tissue from the perforated bowel. And I turned around and, couldn't help myself because I was, it's like 4 and a bit hours after my original appointment time. Well, then you shouldn't have messed it up then, should you? And anyway, so he then poked and prodded and he kind of went, yeah. Well, it would be a bit of a scar. And I went, was it bigger than the one I've got? Because I've got like a 6-7 inch scar already. I don't know how big's it. I went about 6-7 inches. He went, well, yes. Okay. I'm still up for a chop it out. Get rid of it. I don't want to think of it living in there. Chop it out. So a month later, they did just that. And, my friend stayed in my house to look after the dogs. It was a bit more planned for this time. I took stuff with me and everything. But it was very traumatic. But none of this cost me a bean. Now, I could have gone private. And actually, it would have been more complicated to go private because they'd have done the same thing in the same place. I might have got a side room on my own, big whoop, but only might. Whereas, by going NHS, because work give me private medical insurance, thank you, dog, come on. Get in your own sweet time, thanks, Rory. They paid me £100 a day to be in hospital, so I made a profit. Anyway. We've got to the end of the raised ground for today. And I'm just kind of uncovering my... Ooh, there's an extra pin there. We shall out you. Oh, and you're bent. Marvellous. Sort of. So, we've got over halfway through this triangle. Shut up, Amy. Stop doing it to wind him up. So I'm going to leave it here. I will be back tomorrow. Hopefully the camera will come before I do, but I will trying to beat the ads. So I will be back tomorrow. Take care, everybody. See you there.